9:30. Breaking news when it happens on CFAX. It's 6 minutes past 9.
Tomato, 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 tomato. What do I know? I don't know.
This is Talk Radio, and we're talking tomatoes with Save On Foods President Daryl Jones.
Rick, this week's Daryl's deal tastes great no matter how you say it. BC-grown tomatoes on the vine. They're ripe, juicy, and ready to eat for the fresh-picked price of just 79 cents a pound.
You heard it through the tomato vine, folks. So tune in this week and every week for Daryl's deals at Save On Foods. Talk about savings.
Now, Frank Stanford on CFAX 1070.
Well, good morning, and thank you for sharing some of your Wednesday with us on CFAX 1070. Are you comfortably sat with a cup of coffee and ready to get updated on some municipal and some environmental affairs during the next hour? Off the top, what is going on in the community of Lanceville? And I'm reluctant to say that the village, as to whether technically that's the correct terminology. Small population, community of 3,800, township, town, village, whatever it is. You've driven through it 100 times, just north of Nanaimo. You're not even really sure when you leave Nanaimo and when you enter Lanceville. In all probability, you're not sure whether it's an incorporated community or just a sign on the side of the road. It is an incorporated community. It has, or it had until recently, a mayor and council. But most of the council has resigned recently. And now, as I understand it, it is left literally without a quorum and inability to do business. And my first question, I guess, is that being the circumstance, does the title mayor have any meaning at this point? If there's no council over which to preside, does your office have any authority at this point? His Worship Colin Haime has joined us this morning to try and catch us up on what has been going on. Sir, thanks for being with us on CFAX.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here, Frank. First off, I'd just like to say up front, I'd like to thank the Minister, Minister Oakes, for supporting the remaining council with her order yesterday. And I do want to assure the people of Lanceville that the business of Lanceville is continuing uninterrupted.
So, all right, as I understand it, that the minister had the option of shutting down the council and appointing a public trustee, I suppose, to administer the community, but said no, we're going to amend the rules so that the remaining council now does constitute a quorum. Is that right?
Actually, not entirely correct. The minister themselves actually don't have the ability to collapse council as it exists or remaining council as it exists. Under the community charter, the minister had a couple options, the first of which she's taken, which is to declare that the remaining individuals, the remaining three, constitute quorum. The other option that the minister had was to appoint some additional individuals to get us up to that 4 minimum quorum. The minister chose to do the first one.
All right, fair enough. So, mayor and 2 councillors will be able to carry on the business of the community.
Yes.
What's going on? Why did 4 members of council resign? And I take it not all at once.
That's correct.
So 4 individuals with 4 different individual reasons? So that would be awfully coincidental.
Well, to put it frankly, it's bizarre. As an elected official, I couldn't imagine abandoning my post and walking away because, to put it simply, I didn't get my way. The reasons given by the 4 individuals were very vague, very diverse. They range from full-page letters down to, I understand, what was actually handed in by Councillor Savage, or former Councillor Savage, was a 2-line one. I actually haven't seen that in existence at the moment, but apparently it exists.
His is the most recent resignation
this
correct.
Week. Yeah, correct. The one on Monday night, which is the one where we lost quorum.
Right.
The commonality amongst all of them is that all 4 members opposed my election as mayor.
Okay.
There were issues during the election. We certainly had different viewpoints on those issues themselves. And when it comes to that, didn't get the mayor that they wanted. So from that standpoint, I think there was some hope that by resigning it would force a complete election, at which point they could attempt to get the mayor that they desired.
All right. Now we're starting to get to the bottom of things here. Are you, perchance, in your first term as mayor?
No, actually, I'm not.
You're not?
I'm at first. There was a break in between. I was mayor from 2003 to 2011, and then 2014 till current.
This kind of stuff didn't happen between 2003 and 2011.
Actually, the politics in Lanceville were relatively quiet up until roughly about late 2010. And in fact, I've actually been involved in the local government since 1994. So it's a small community. It doesn't have much to it. Like you mentioned on the introduction there, people wouldn't even know that they've driven through it effectively. But there wasn't that sort of bite to politics here until late 2010 through 2011 and through the last 3 years.
So what happened in 2010, sir?
Well, there was an issue around urban agriculture up here, and there was a division with respect to the community on that issue itself. Kind of a similar type of an aspect where people who had an issue of some sort basically tried to create uproar, and in fact did create uproar through the media, through Facebook, things like that. In terms of that issue has been dealt with and is put to bed. But when it came to the new council in 2014, there was certainly a divergence of opinions on how to handle some of the new issues in that regard.
So the current problem is not the same issue as surfaced 5 years or so ago.
That's correct.
But it is, can we say, a continuation of some hard feelings that became rooted as a result of that issue 5 years ago? Is that a
same individuals in certain cases? The people that made the press in that the last time are attempting to make the press this time as well. But in terms of Lanceville itself, like I said, it's a small community. It shouldn't have these kind of political issues. And like I said, in my first roughly 20 years of involvement, 17 years of involvement, there was none of that. And then what happened is other individuals get involved. They take different tactics. There were activists, there was protests, things like that. And it's a different kind of a mindset rather than let's just do business.
We have had, and you may be aware of this, we've had a couple of examples in Greater Victoria. I mean, we've got 13 municipalities here, so there are going to be 13 different sets of situations. We've had situations in these parts where there is a deep schism between the mayor and the majority of council, and in fact, not in this past term and not in the current one, but a couple of terms ago, we had an example in one community where some of the councillors resigned midterm, not so many that it left the community without a quorum.
Yes.
In the same municipality in the next term, the majority of council gave the mayor a swat across the face by voting her off of the regional district board.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder if that sort of thing has been happening in Lanceville.
Well, interesting you mention that, because one of the things that's the most baffling is you get, in theory, the way it's being represented, a majority of council is unhappy with the way council is operating. Yeah. Well, council itself is a democracy. And so in the example you raised, if a majority of council believed that the mayor wasn't doing an adequate job, yes, they do have the power to remove that individual from boards such as the regional district. Same idea up here. Effectively, though, what we've got is if you go through the meeting minutes, you go through the recordings of the meetings, etc., there's not a case of those councillors, any of those four councillors, raising numerous points of order or raising statements arguments saying, okay, we shouldn't do it this way, let's overrule the mayor, let's do this, let's do that. There's none of that. And so that's why it's even more baffling in terms of it. So if in a democratic system, if 4 members who make up a majority can't effectively create motions or to get the direction that they want, I've got concerns as an individual resident as to their effectiveness.
Yeah.
There's some...
Of course, they might tell us, if I was speaking with one of them right now, they might tell us that kind of infighting and backbiting in the council chamber is unbecoming, and it was not appropriate to engage in that stuff, and better just to walk away from it. I mean, I'm just speculating that
well,
might be.
And in terms of that, it's like when I'm talking to the ministries and that, and they go, well, what's happening? They have visions of meetings where people are yelling and screaming at each other and calling people names and that sort of an aspect. And I'm going, there's none. And they go, what do you mean there's none? I said, there's none.
So all these resignations just came out of the blue.
Well, and in terms of it really became more clear to me with the statements that Councillor Savage made on Monday night as to the reasonings and rationale. One of the first individuals that resigned made reference to conduct with staff. No specifics, nothing. Yeah. No on this date or anything like that, and that's never been provided. The next individual talked about democracy and being Canadian, and everything comes up for a vote. It's a majority vote, that sort of a thing. Nobody's ever been prevented from voting, so again, I'm baffled again. You get to Councillor Savage, and Councillor Savage went back to the issues in the last election. Councillor Savage talked about these should be happy times. We signed a water agreement between Lanceville and Nanaimo. These should be happy times. We have a surplus financially. And
that's good.
Well, it is, except the points that he's missing is the issues during the election wasn't the current amount of money sitting in the bank. It's the fact that if you take into account the cost of connecting to Nanaimo, if you take the other challenges, which we're changing over from a volunteer fire chief to a paid fire chief, those sorts of things, you'd be looking at a tax increase of 10 to 12%. And so it's great to look back, but we need to look forward. And those were the issues during the election. And to go back to that for Councillor Savage, like I said, that brought it into focus. He's focused in on what's happened in the past with regards to what council has achieved, but he's not looking at it as the effect on the future.
Colin Haime is the mayor of Lanceville, a troubled community on Vancouver Island, and numerous resignations from council. I understand there have been some senior staff resignations as well, and in some ways I find that even more troubling. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you for your perspective on that part of the story as we continue after this break on CFAX.
Join the CFAX conversation on Facebook. Frank Stanford on CFAX 1070. Everyone has an opinion.
He says on one hand it's a good deal, and the next comment he says it's not.
We've got the facts with news you can count on. If it's happening, it's here. Victoria's News Authority. CFAX 1070.
It pays to shop at Thrifty Foods. No, I mean, it really does pay, and you get to choose how. Instantly redeem reward miles from your Air Miles cash balance at the till. 95 Air Miles equals $10 off your groceries. Or you can use your reward miles in your dream balance for a number of different rewards like travel, merchandise, and more. Go to thriftyfoods.com/Air Miles for more details.
Hi, this is Sharon.
And Larry.
We have been longtime DermaSpa clients that have enjoyed a variety of anti-aging skincare services.
No matter which procedure, we come away feeling replenished.
We recently had hydrofacials and noticed immediate improvements.
Thank you,
DermaSpa.
Improve the appearance of fine lines, acne, and scarring. This month at DermaSpa, book a hydrofacial facial and receive 15% off. Visit Dermaspa's physician team led by plastic surgeon Dr. Harlow Hollis on Oak Bay Avenue or online at dermaspa.ca.
The CRD is pleased to offer the next step in recycling convenience. 3 great options for getting your new residential recycling schedule starting May 1st. You can download a schedule from the CRD website and print it at home. You can request to have a schedule mailed to you. You can download our free smartphone app or subscribe to recycling updates and reminders via text message, email, voicemail, or Twitter. The choice is yours. For details, just visit crd.bc.ca. The CRD, making a difference together.
The Lexus F-Sport event is here, and that means you'll receive an F-Sport credit of up to $5,000 on select F-Sport models. Come in for a test drive today. See newspaper or visit Jim Pattison Lexus Victoria for details. Finlayson at Burnside.
While she was alive, Dr. Marjorie Chun loved working in pediatrics, so she left a bequest in her will. Today, sick children staying at the hospital where she worked will benefit from this bequest. Dr. Chun left a legacy. So can you. Leave a gift in your will to your favorite charities. Learn how at leavealegacy.ca, an initiative of CAGP Vancouver Island, supported by the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island.
On May 20th, Mango's boutique on Johnson Street downtown was broken into by suspects smashing the front door. A number of unique wooden handcrafted watches were stolen. If you have been offered one to buy or know who committed this crime, call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or visit our website, victoriacrimestoppers.com.
A trip down memory lane. Boomertown with Barry Bowman. Sundays at 3 on CFAX 1070. Bringing you the rest of the story. Frank Stanford on CFAX 1070.
Trying to get to the bottom this morning of the story in Lanceville, British Columbia, where not only a majority of the council has resigned, not together, but at different times over the past few weeks, leaving the municipality without a quorum, although the Minister of Community and what used to be the Minister of Municipal Affairs, which was a term I could understand, has authorized the mayor and 2 remaining councillors to continue doing business. As I understand it, Your Worship, a couple or more of the senior municipal staff have departed as well. Is this coincidental, or is this part of the political machinations?
Well, first off, it actually has been 2 individuals. Our Chief Administrative Officer gave notice, with notice to be at the end of June, and also our Director of Finance gave notice as well.
To perhaps the 2 most senior people in the organization?
Yeah, one thing to remember, Lanceville is a pretty small organization. We only have 5 senior staff, 5 full-time QP members, and then a couple of part-time QP members. So it's not like Saanich or Victoria that has a load of managers.
Yeah.
But let's draw a parallel between Lanceville and some of those other communities. Not unusual after an election for some of the senior staff to resign, or from some of the senior staff to move on. When it comes to the standpoint of being a public servant and working with a particular council, it's not unusual for example, for a staff member to kind of become a favorite of a particular council. They're all working together. They all seem to agree on some costly, large public service project. And in wanting to support the project, things get moved forward. But then new people come in, new people even during an election, and they begin to question the results of that project, and they begin to question the operational effect of that project, and they begin to question the legality of that project, and council changes. And the original council that you were in favor with, and this is a staff member, all of a sudden faces a new council who's going to be asking very difficult questions with regards to how these agreements and that got created. It's not, if that was your situation, it's something where you might have a reaction of deciding to move on as well.
So these 2 senior individuals gave notice and are continuing to work, or they simply packed up and walked away one day?
They gave notice and continued to work.
Okay, so at least the departure is on more or less civil professional terms.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yes.
And there's not going to be any giant golden handshake that the taxpayer of Lanceville can't afford.
No. And in fact, with regards to replacement individuals, one of the items that was on the agenda, and the replacement on the agenda, unfortunately, was after the moment when Councillor Savage got to speak and resign, was the appointment of an interim CAO as well to replace our existing CAO. So, and we've actually done the job search. We're in the process of going through the submissions from people to look for permanent replacements.
All right, fair enough. I want to go to the telephones quickly here. One of our listeners has a question for you. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hello.
My God, Frank, this sounds like Sandy. But the reason the ones in Saanich didn't resign was because they were getting paid too much. I would imagine in Lanceville they're not making a big buck. The mayors even sound the same, calm, calculated. It's just amazing how much this is. It's deja vu.
Yeah. Answer that question, Your Worship. How much does a councillor in Lanceville earn?
About $8,000 for a councillor, about $14,000 for the mayor.
What about the CAO?
CAO about $127,000.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's not a bad buck for a town that small.
Yeah.
All right. So
let me just draw a quick parallel between here and Saanich, by the way, because I have to admit, I mean, I watch what's going on in the news and Twitter feeds and that.
Sure, you would, yeah.
The aspect of the Saanich mayor and the initial response to his claims about the software and those sorts of things and the invasion of privacy. Initially, the response of a lot of people was, "Oh, he's just crazy," sort of a thing. And then the privacy commissioner took a look at it and said, he's right. So people got to stop and think about what the actual background is as opposed to what the spin is.
When are you going to have by-elections?
One of the things, again, that was on the agenda prior to Mr. Savage resigning, there'll be a discussion. We're actually going to have a special council meeting tonight because Minister Oakes gave us the authority to have quorum. We're going to have a special meeting tonight to finish that agenda. There'll be some discussion with respect to the by-election and the potential staffing of it because we do need a chief election officer and a deputy. So the actual date itself will possibly come out of a discussion at the meeting tonight, if not at our next council meeting.
Yeah, your desire is to have by-elections as soon as possible, which might land us right in the middle of the summer, whereas autumn is a more traditional time.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of it because of the timing of it and because of the legislative requirements for advertising, etc. Essentially, the quickest we can have an election is about 46 days, give or take a few days, based on advertising deadlines, and that's going to put us dead in the middle of summer, unfortunately. And theoretically, we could try and ask the minister, could we hold off till September? But I think it's more important that we get a fully functioning council, and I look forward to the new individuals coming on to council who are going to stick with their job. They're going to express their viewpoints. They're going to debate issues, and at the end of the day, you shake hands and you go have a beer at the local pub.
Interesting story. We'll continue to watch it, Colin Haime. Thank you very much. I do think, as a general principle, that sitting here in Victoria, sometimes we don't pay enough attention to some of the things that are going on elsewhere on Vancouver Island. Right in even if you are on the other side of that fence known as the Malahat.
I grew up in Victoria. I never went north of the Malahat till I was 22. So there you go.
You're kidding.
No, that's right.
Well, we're going to try and change that gradually. I'm going to spend more time with the people such as yourself and your counterparts in Nanaimo and Courtenay and various other places.
Give me a call anytime and we can chat.
Thank you.
All right.
Your Worship. All right. Change the topic after the news headlines to 9:30 on CFAX 1070.
This is Victoria's News Authority, CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It's 9:30. I'm Steve Duffy with CFAX 1070 News. A local area mom says her complaint